Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Northborough. If you haven't seen the show before, my name is Art Bergeron. I work at a firm called Myrick O'Connell. There are 70 of us, biggest firm outside of Boston. That's my ad. And so because there are so many lawyers, everybody gets to do what they like doing, and I like doing elder law. That's all I do. But this show is not about elder law. It's about Frank and Mary. If you've been to a presentation of mine, you know I always talk about Frank and Mary and their kids, Peter, Paul, and Mary Jr. And Frank and Mary's goal is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if you're in Northborough, that means here. That doesn't mean with your kids in San Diego or even in, Boston. It's here. And so the point of the show is to help you understand the people you need to know and the programs you need to know about if you want to stay right here in Northborough for the rest of your life. So of course, I don't know that because I live far away in Marlborough. So I got this great co-host that was actually recommended to me by our guest, by Kelly Burke, about a year ago. And she's been great because she knows everybody. Anita Hagspiel. And by the way, this is Anita's last show for the season because she's going to South Northborough.
No.
some southern,
to Naples, Florida.
Yeah, South Northborough. So she's going to be away for a while. So Kelly and I are talking about whether we just leave that seat empty for the next 5 months or whether we fill it with somebody. So Anita, we're going to talk to Kelly about some stuff.
We sure are. Some very exciting things.
And what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about something that we're very excited about. And Kelly, our director of the Northborough Senior Center, is our spearhead. It's about strategic planning, rebranding, and having a logo for the Northborough Senior Center.
And is that going to be something that says 25%? Is that why you made me with a button that says?
Well,
no?
Gee,
or is that going
what does 25% mean, Kelly?
I'm really glad that you asked that question.
And what an intro. What an intro. Okay.
And I actually have the numbers that will define that.
That will define it.
So every so often I ask Andy Dowd, who's our town clerk, what's the 60-plus population? Because we know from demographics that across the world, really, that the people who are 60 and over are a much bigger demographic than anything else. As you know, a few years ago in Massachusetts, the population switched, and there were more people that are over 60 than under 20, and that's continuing the projections are going in that direction.
And that's going to keep going for a while.
That's going to keep going,
Yep.
yes. Yep, the boomers, all those names if you've heard people being called.
Here we are.
And I'm there too, so it makes three of us.
She looks awfully young to
She
be
sure does.
Kelly, but we'll pass.
So the years of birth for that are 1946 to 1962 really defines boomers. So when I asked Andy, I said I'd like to know how many people in town are 60 plus, and I do this pretty much a couple times a year to see what the numbers are and how many people are living in Northborough as a whole. So these are numbers as of July of 2019.
Real data.
Real data, and the total population is 14,658 for Northborough, and of that, 25% are 60 plus. In other words, 3,704 residents of Northborough are 60 plus. So it really does show that it's a growing number, and the reason that we started to talk about strategic plan was that we want to be ready for 2025. That's the year that we've chosen that we're projecting out to. We know that these numbers are going to keep on increasing. We want to be poised as a senior center and as a friends group for that growth and for those people and making sure that we're providing everything necessary to those people that are over 60 in our community.
Which is great.
Great. And I can't say enough, and I say this a lot, but the Friends of the Northborough Senior Center is kind of the PTO of the Senior Center. So they're our fundraising arm. They're so supportive, and when they heard me talking about strategic plan, knowing that was something the Council on Aging wanted to work on as well, they were, Anita and all of her board members unanimously said that they wanted to support this. And so financially they are doing that. So we don't have that in our budget. So,
and of course that's exactly the kind of stuff that's hard to get into the budget.
Absolutely.
Because it's a long-term plan,
yes.
And so it's competing with all of the immediate needs. So it always ends up being kind of the last thing talked about in the agenda, and we'll talk about it next month.
Right.
As opposed to really, that's the great thing about the Friends, right?
Yeah, it's fabulous, and that's really what their mission is too, is to support the senior center and for things that the budget just doesn't cover. So a perfect example of it, in the past they've supported staff positions that weren't in the budget either, And so every time I've asked the Friends for something, they've been there, and it's been great. And I can't say enough positive things about that.
And so how's it? What are you thinking? How's it going to work?
So in the summer, we started the process.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to know Barry Atkin, who is a consultant in marketing. MCOA, Mass Councils on Aging, which is our membership organization, has used Barry so many ways. She has written a marketing toolbook for MCOA. So all 351 towns in the state are able to use this because of Barry's work. So Barry guided us, first on the strategic plan. The first thing that we really accomplished was the mission. So we have a new mission for the Senior Center, and I'll read that mission so I don't miss anything.
Right.
As the hub for all aspects of healthy aging, the mission of the Northborough Council on Aging / Senior Center is to enrich and enhance the lives of older adults. And we really felt like we talked to staff, we had staff input, we had Council on Aging input, the Friends, and then we've put together a small working group to work on the strategic plan. We really felt the hub was a good symbol of what we're trying to do. A hub, when you think about a hub, is something that's in motion, something that's active, and we are that. A hub, you also think of a wheel, which has a lot of spokes. And we do have a lot of spokes, too. We have a lot of outreach that we're trying to do. Historically, we've done outreach to older adults who are Chinese or Indian that we may not have seen in the Senior Center, but we want to include them. Most recently, this is our second year working on a grant for LGBTQ adults, and there may be people in that community that don't feel like, is the Senior Center going to be welcoming to me? The answer is yes.
Yeah, but at this point, they may not feel that. But so you're really, just as with those other populations, you're really reaching out so that they can be kind of a bridge. It is really a good analogy.
Yeah, and then of course I don't have to tell you about the dementia-friendly work that we've done. We were partners with that, and now we have Daybreak, so we really are reaching out to those folks that may have been isolating because of having that determination of having dementia, or their caregivers. So as you know, I can't help but put a plug in for Daybreak, which is really respite for the caregiver. It's 3 hours of really good, meaningful activities for the people that have dementia, and it's going off the charts in all three communities: Marlborough, Hudson, and Northborough.
And I think because it's not just respite for the caregiver,
right?
But it's a social time.
It is.
For folks who have got memory problems,
right?
And it's kind of a great thing if you're together with a bunch of other people with memory problems. It's not a stigma; it's a joke. It's kind of like it's kind of fun.
Right? Christine, who's the facilitator in Northborough and in Marlborough, and then Lisa in Hudson. They've put together a great curriculum, as you might say, real meaningful activities that people enjoy and want to come back every week. So it's a win-win.
So I'm curious though, because once again, I haven't been part of that process. What is your sense kind of going into this? Obviously, you had a real interest in doing this, which is the reason why you were talking about it, which is the reason why they're backing it, right? What is your sense? Is your sense that projecting into the future from what has happened over these years, that facility-wise you're okay, but it's a programming issue, or is the population changing and you're thinking about, it isn't just an expansion thing or in terms of programming, but it's other kinds of programs? Because you're not only there and have really kind of driven that from before you moved, right?
Yes.
Right? But you're also really active at the state level, so you're seeing what other people are doing. We were talking about some faraway place before the beginning of the show, and because you're just constantly seeing initiatives, and you're really interested, right?
Yes.
So what is your sense of that?
Well, I think everything that you talked about. One is the demographics, and really what the demographics show us are that people are living longer and healthier lives, and that's a great thing. It's a positive thing, and we just want to make sure that we're here and offering all the services and the resources that we can to meet that. And it may be that people, as you go through people that are 60 plus or even in their 50s, we have people that are over 100 that are using the Senior Center as well. And when you think of that programmatically, there's much different interests that people have at different stages of their lives. So it's programming for people, maybe in their 50s to over 100. So that's it's interesting, and I'm passionate about all of these things. And the other thing we've talked a lot about in strategic planning is ageism. Ageism exists, and is it a point of making some of those language changes to? But my favorite quote right now is from Ashton Applewhite. And she has a blog, and she's an author for ageism, and her quote really resonates with me. She says, "Ageism is prejudice against your future self."
Oh, that's very
So
good.
it really is something to think
very
about,
good.
and dementia friendly, age friendly is something that's very popular now across the state as well. And age friendly is really not looking just at older adults. It's looking what's good for a 3-year-old is good for an 80-plus-year-old
Right.
in terms of
Right.
sidewalks or accommodations and things like that. So I'm excited about the whole aging
Wow.
process, really.
To try to get to that level would be quite something.
It
Like,
would-
you know,
yeah.
you kind of notice it. Well, of course, I'm going to turn 70 in January, right? So, right? And the some of the standard lines. Well, you look terrific for your age. You look so healthy, right? Which builds in these assumptions about what I'm supposed to look like because of that age, right?
Right.
And the notion of defining things in terms of age instead of in terms of health, right?
Right.
That's a real challenge.
Yeah, it is a real challenge, and it's not going to be like it's going to change overnight, because you look at culturally, societally, looking at commercials on TV, it's all about getting rid of wrinkles and all of those kind of things. But I think it's a process like everything else, and I think that we have to kind of forge ahead with that, because it really does. That people are working longer than they used to. There's
Right.
no set retirement age like it used to be.
Right.
And
And figuring
so-
that piece out.
Yeah.
It's funny, I find myself, because I'm talking to the other partners, so we have a few lawyers who are actually, this one, a terrific labor lawyer, is a little over 80 now, right? But it leads to those kinds of questions, because for folks who are trying to figure that out, it's easier to pick an age and to say above that age, you're just because then you don't have to have any of those hard conversations, right? If a person of whatever age starts having problems, right? And it starts being difficult for them to do the work, right? So the question, if you're no longer going to just have those kinds of lines,
Right.
then what's the alternative? And what are and there clearly are alternatives. Just like it was easy to just dismiss everybody that had a cognitive issue. Well, they just got cognitive issues. Well, first of all, you just put them in a home, or you put them far away or whatever.
Or you stay at home.
Or you at least keep them out of school because, oh God, they couldn't mix in with all the other kids because it's going to hold them back.
Right.
And so that's switched. But then what? And I think, just my own sense, some of the best examples of how to deal with things came out of that. The
Yeah.
tremendous success of dealing with a whole variety of people who had some issues, that not only their lives are now better, but everybody else's life is. Every kid coming out of high school who's dealt with kids who have issues is a
Right.
better kid
Right.
growing up to be an adult.
No, and
right?
I think part of what drove this as well is I've always had a feeling that what I want for the senior center, as well as all the activities and programs and all that stuff that's great there,
Yeah.
is also outreach. So we have Jocelyn, who can talk to people about so many issues. So I think that really my passion for that is that I would like everybody in Northborough, whatever they're thinking about in terms of aging,
Yeah.
the first place they're going to think about is a senior center. They're going to call the senior center, visit the senior center, get on our webpage, so that's really what I want it to be, that you got an aging issue, you're not even going to think twice. You're going to come to the senior center.
Which means that you're covering a tremendous variety of aging issues.
Right, and we're talking to, adult children of older adults.
Yeah.
So, it's really a broad spectrum. And we talk a lot about intergenerational things, which we have a great relationship with Algonquin. A lot of kids that come up and do volunteer work, and never in the 10 years that I've been there have we had any kind of an issue. These kids are great. They bring so much to the table. They come and help with computers and laptops, and they're here, they're in the office, they're in the bistro,
Yes.
and so I guess, when you talk about changing societal the mores or whatever, you're starting with those kids, because what they're experiencing at the senior center, is all that activity and how valuable people are no matter what their age is.
Right. Right.
And the more you can get those groups together, the better.
And that's a good point in terms of just skipping over the people in the middle, because the younger ones, right? Because by the way, the people in the middle know nothing about technology compared to the younger ones, right?
Right.
So to have them really coming in is actually, I was thinking about that as it relates to our shows, because I know that it is assumed, although the cable companies will never tell you what the viewership is and how it is constituted, that many of the viewers are seniors, and that this is a great vehicle for seniors, which then leads to the question, so how could it be a better vehicle for seniors? But then one of the questions then is, so how many of those seniors know how to get to this channel, right? Just know how to get to it, or know how to download anything, right? And wouldn't that be a useful thing to have every senior know? Because then there's a vehicle, because the old vehicle is no longer there. You can't read the paper anymore, right? You have a version of your senior newsletter that you still send, as well as doing it online. But there's the Middlesex News. What's that? The Worcester Telegram. So 10 years from now, there will be none of that. The print's just going to be gone. And so the question is, without the cable station and knowledge of access to it, you will have no access to anything. You will not be able to be part of your community, right?
Right, and that's what we want.
But the notion of the senior center being able to do all of those things. So have you seen other places that have had particular programs that you said, ooh, that would be really interesting?
Well, just in what you were just talking about, there's a lot of talk and people in senior centers that are doing this, that are bringing technology in, so that if somebody is homebound or can't make it to the senior center for one reason or another, they can be part of that presentation, by using, virtual, I guess, technology, and even providing people who are homebound with iPads or something like that, so that they can stay in touch. And I know my health insurance sent out a teledoc, so that you can get on, and FaceTime really with your doctor and things like that.
A teledoc.
Teledoc.
What's that again?
Just
What's
so you
that
can,
again, honey? I don't get it. What?
Just so you can, have a face-to-face with your doctor. And I haven't used it personally,
right.
but I think all of that technology is out there, and we want to embrace that as well. And really, like I said, I just want everybody in the Northborough community, no matter where they are in age, if they are that adult child, in their 40s that says, "Ooh, I live in San Diego, but I just came home to Northborough to see my mom, and things have really changed over the last 6 months. What do I do now?" It's a maze, as you know, all the services and resources. And Jocelyn, being that outreach coordinator, she knows what those resources are. She can help with getting through that maze.
And to know that there's the one call that you can make.
That's right.
It's like that one portal that's going to get you to everything else.
Yeah, and that's the way that would be my dream.
That's
as
great.
Far as that, that people just think aging, they think the senior center.
And they just think the senior center. And in terms of providing that kind of technology, if it really becomes a community-wide goal, then it's like every senior, you almost feel like, like you really, it's your responsibility as a senior to plug in and to kind of know how all of that stuff works, and to not to just isolate that way.
Right. I was leaving the senior center to come up here.
Yeah.
There was a woman waiting for the van service, and I said, "How was your program today?" She's like, "It was great. And it's just great being with the people." And just, and I said, "That's exactly what I want to hear. And thank you for sharing that, because that's exactly why we exist."
Yes.
We are a link to something that you need. And, I went to an MCOA conference today, and they were talking about nutrition being really something in Massachusetts. We're seeing now seniors that are really suffering because they don't, the nutrition insecurity, economic insecurity.
Yep.
And that's something that's across Massachusetts, and MCOA now wants to have that as one of our goals. I sit on their board as well.
Yep.
And I think of the bistro, that's really, the bistro is there for that reason. If you're up going to a program at the senior center and you stop to have lunch, you're going to be sitting with 7 or 8 other people and having that conversation, and that social isolation is gone for that meal, and you're getting a great meal, as we know, a delicious meal.
And in terms of kind of where that could go, interestingly, you've also got that industrial kitchen.
Absolutely.
So you can actually use your kitchen as a way of kind of teaching some of those seniors, you can really cook like that.
Yep, and we've done things like that, cooking for one and things like that, because it is important. So really, your question, the sky's the limit. It just is really, and that's why I always ask for feedback. I want to know what people are looking for that reason, because we want to be there to support that.
And so in terms of timing, do you have a sense of how that's going to work?
It's strategic plan-wise, 2025 is the year we're looking out to.
And when do you want to be done with the planning process?
The planning process, we're wrapping up the strategic plan itself, getting our goals in order, our work plan for rolling it out, so that we can have, as you know, a strategic plan is a working document. It's not something that gets completed, put in a 3-ring binder and up on the shelf.
That's right.
So we want to have something,
The good ones.
The good ones, the ones that you put the money into and that you want to have something come out of. And so that, we're looking for 2025. The next phase that we're going into, I'm really excited about, because we are going into the branding or rebranding. We don't have a logo. We've never had a logo at the Senior Center. We will have one now. And I think that will help too, in terms of people are going to hopefully see that logo, see that tagline, and think, oh yeah, I do have an aging issue and I know where to go.
Right, because it's not just the Senior Center.
That's right. There's so much more.
Right, right. It's something that's really special. Because isn't that the challenge? So often it's just to get folks to be thinking of themselves as this group.
That's right.
Which also deals with kind of like, I was doing these presentations, I was talking about Frank and Mary at 70 and then at 80 and then at 90. The most recent has been 90, because you're talking about Mary kind of more toward the end of her life. But at 70, we really talked about Frank and Mary as being, you need to be the volunteers. Because kind of we're all in this together, right? And our kids are all working and they're all doing a million things, and many of them are in San Diego, or I got one in DC, I got one in Austin, Texas, and one in Colorado Springs. Hey, look, they're not stopping by to help me with the groceries.
Right.
So if seniors aren't helping seniors, right, it's not going to get done. So the notion of that Senior Center also as being the place that people are really thinking about, the window through which they're doing their volunteer things. They're really helping.
Oh, that's right. There's opportunities at the Senior Center for that as well.
Right. And in many ways, they're helping themselves, because they're building that community.
And they're certainly helping us, because we are very, very reliant on volunteers, and we're working through Service Enterprise right now to do a volunteer program to make that even better, so that it becomes something that is very important to the volunteer. We have a lot of people with longevity right now.
Service Enterprise?
Service Enterprise. It's the Massachusetts Alliance for Volunteers as a state program. It's associated on a national level with Points of Light.
Yeah.
But they provide 16 hours of training and follow-up and help in so many ways. And we've drawn so much from them already. And they are looking for other nonprofits and senior centers to sign on for more trainings that they're doing.
I see. So it's really to train entities that are providing a lot or working with a lot of volunteers, just to make that in itself better and better.
Exactly.
That's
and we're
a really
doing that
useful
too,
exercise.
because it really is. And when we did that, there's a ROVI, which is how much a volunteer is worth really to your organization. And when we did our numbers on that, we found that we have the equivalent of 7 full-time staff within the volunteers that we have.
In terms of the number of hours
the number of hours that they work and what their value is to the organization. It's phenomenal, and and another group that I can't thank enough of the volunteers.
And that's really terrific.
They keep us going.
Because when you think about the pool, given the statistic that you just gave,
right.
If you're thinking about that on the optimistic side, the number of potential volunteer hours, new potential volunteer hours that's showing up in Northborough every year, as more of these people retire or at least go part-time and suddenly have this availability.
Exactly.
It's a huge pool.
Right.
And the only pool there is, right? Because among non-seniors, there are no more, because everybody's just killing themselves, just working.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, it's wonderful for us.
This is pretty terrific.
It is. It's all good.
So is this her idea, this whole thing?
No.
This is really...
It takes a village, and believe me,
really
I have so much help.
Special.
I have a lot of help. I have a very good team of people. I have staff. I was thinking on the way in yesterday to work, You know, what I could say about my staff across the board and without 100% is they all give such great customer service. I have such a great team for that. And that's more than half the battle, right? You got the right people working in the environment. So I don't do anything on my own. I am surrounded by people that help me do all these things.
So one of the things that we were talking about before the beginning of the show was, as we say, I'm losing my co-host to South Northborough, so that we may be doing some of these shows between now and May on aspects of this. I was just thinking this might be a really interesting thing to do, to be focusing on some of these different clusters of things that might be of real interest to people.
Yeah, well, I'll end by saying that, and all the rebranding and the logo, we're going to unveil all that at our 10th anniversary.
Which is?
In March of 2020.
Oh, that's
we'll have been in this building for 10 years.
And so by that point, I'm going to be a new button. There's going to be
There'll
the
probably
logo.
be a new
This
button.
will be a logo
the way the
button
numbers
here.
are going, the logo button will be
The
there.
logo button will be there.
And that will be unveiled at our party. And we know now, in looking at our participation numbers, that we have double the amount of people coming in from the 5th anniversary to our almost 10th anniversary. We've doubled the numbers of people participating. So as I know, as you know, as we all know, those numbers are going to keep growing.
They're going to keep on growing.
So we have to keep up.
Well, this is all a lot of fun.
It was.
Thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
Have a great time, Anita.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure South Northborough will be just as you've hoped it, you know. But maybe we can do a call-in show, and you can call in or something.
She does.
Oh, maybe we
do.
can do one of those
She
FaceTimes.
does that.
Yes.
We do that
She
every
does all this
monthly
stuff?
meeting.
At the
I'm
Friends-
FaceTiming in.
Anita's right there.
That's great. That's great. So thank you for these. This has been a great year. Thank you very much,
Happy
Kelly.
holidays.
Thank you for
Yes,
having me.
and happy holidays. And we'll see you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Northborough.